The Empire expected humiliation. The Emperor expected laughter. What he didn't expect was a human who saw worth where an entire galaxy saw shame. They called it punishment. They called her a failure. But in the quietest corner of human space, a single moment was about to rewrite how power, beauty, and loyalty were defined in HFY sci-fi tales. The scrapyard moon of Kelt, 9 never slept. Its sky glowed amber from orbital refineries, and its ground trembled with the constant heartbeat of salvaged engines being torn apart and reborn. Inside a corrugated steel hangar, Aaron Vale worked alone. Third-generation spacer. Former fleet cadet. Now, independent human engineer with grease-stained hands and a reputation for fixing what everyone else abandoned. Aaron leaned over a cracked grav core, sparks snapping inches from his face. His breath fogged the visor of his worn helmet. One wrong adjustment, and the entire unit would detonate. He smiled anyway. That's when the air behind him bent. Not shimmered. Not glowed. It split. A vertical fracture of light tore open reality, like a blade through fabric. Aaron froze mid-movement. His instinct screamed, run, hide, draw weapon, but he did none of it. Because portals like this meant only one thing. Empire. A figure stepped through. She was tall, broad-hipped, unmistakably alien, and trembling. Her skin carried a muted opalescent hue, like stone polished by centuries of rain. Heavy ceremonial fabric hung from her shoulders, stitched with imperial sigils, but the garments strained against her fuller frame, clearly altered in a rush. Jewelry meant to signal dominance instead looked like a burden weighing her down. Her eyes, wide, luminous, and afraid, darted around the hangar. Behind her, the portal flared again. A towering holographic projection burst into existence. Regal, cold, cruel, the Aurelian Emperor. Human. The voice thundered, echoing through metal and bone alike. I present to you my daughter, Princess Veolyra of the Aurelian throne. The princess flinched. She has disgraced our lineage. Failed discipline. Failed elegance. Failed usefulness. A pause, deliberate. Surgical. She will learn humility among your kind. The Emperor's gaze flicked to Veolyra with unmistakable contempt. You may keep her, or discard her. Either will amuse me. The portal snapped shut. Silence crashed down like gravity. Princess Veolyra stood alone in the human's hangar, hands clenched in the folds of her gown, breathing shallowly, like someone waiting to be struck. Aaron blinked once, twice. He slowly set his tools down, not because he was afraid, because something about the way she stood, head bowed, shoulders squared in quiet defiance, hit him harder than any imperial threat ever could. Aaron said carefully, removing his helmet. You're blocking my coolant line. Veolyra looked up sharply. Confusion flashed across her face. Then disbelief. Then something close to panic. I will move at once, she said, voice melodic but strained. I will not be a burden. That word lingered. Burden. Aaron frowned. He gestured to a nearby crate. You don't have to stand. Long trip, yeah. She hesitated, as if the wrong choice might cost her everything. Slowly she sat. The crate creaked. Her eyes widened in horror. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can stand. I shouldn't. It's rated for 4 tons. Aaron interrupted casually. You're good. She froze. No mockery. No disgust. No laughter. Just fact. Aaron studied her now. Not the symbols, not the title, but the micro-tremors in her hands, the controlled breathing of someone trained to endure cruelty with grace. Name's Aaron, he said. You hungry? Her lips parted. The Empire had prepared her for many humiliations. This wasn't one of them. Hold on, before we get into the real stuff. I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? Cooking? Working? Lying in bed staring at the ceiling? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. Veolyra nodded slowly. Yes, she admitted, but I was not instructed to ask. Aaron chuckled softly as he walked toward a storage locker. Yeah, he said. That tracks. What neither of them knew was that the Emperor was still watching, and this joke was about to become the most dangerous mistake of his reign. The Empire sent her to be broken. Instead, She found something far more dangerous, kindness. Aaron slid a heat-sealed ration pack onto the workbench and cracked it open with a practiced flick. The scent of spiced protein and toasted grain filled the hangar, cutting through oil, ozone, and rust. Princess Veolyra inhaled before she could stop herself, then immediately stiffened, as if ashamed of the reflex. Aaron noticed. He always noticed small things. That was how you kept machines and people alive. Relax, he said, pushing the pack toward her. It's not a test. Her fingers hovered above the food. Elegant, careful, trained. In my father's court, she said quietly. Nothing is ever given without cost. Aaron leaned back against the bench. Yeah, humans tried that model once. Didn't go great. She blinked. You speak of rebellion? More like learning the hard way. He shrugged. Eat. She did. At first, slowly, cautiously, then faster, as if her body betrayed the discipline drilled into her since childhood. Color warmed her cheeks. Another thing, she clearly hated being noticed. But Aaron didn't comment. Instead, he turned back to the graph core, pretending not to hear the soft, involuntary sound she made after the first real bite, a sound dangerously close to relief. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by distant machinery and the crackle of cooling metal. Veolyra spoke again. Why are you not staring? Aaron glanced over. At what? At me. Her jaw tightened. That is usually when it begins. Begins, he asked. The judgment, she said flatly. The evaluations. The jokes. The comparisons. A pause. The disgust. Aaron set his tool down. He turned fully this time. Okay, he said slowly. I'm going to say something, and you tell me if I'm missing context. She nodded. You got dropped here by a glowing space tyrant who called you a failure. Aaron continued. So far, he's the only one acting like a problem. Her eyes widened. Just a fraction. No one had ever framed it like that. You don't understand, Veolyra said. In Aurelian culture, form reflects worth. Expansion reflects indulgence. Indulgence reflects weakness. And weakness deserves punishment. Aaron asked. Yes. He snorted. That's wild. She frowned. Wild. Yeah. Where I'm from, mass usually means stability. Momentum. Harder to knock over. He gestured vaguely. Ships with more structural redundancy survive longer. Same principle. Veolyra stared at him. You compare my body to starship design? Aaron grinned. Best compliment I've given all week. Something cracked. Not loudly. Not cleanly. But enough. Veolyra's composure slipped just a little. Her shoulders sagged. Her eyes glistened, and she turned away quickly, as if embarrassed by the reaction. I was sent here, she said, voice tight. Because my father believes humans delight in humiliation. He thought this would entertain his court. Aaron's smile faded. That's so. Yes. A soft species. He called you. Emotion-driven. Easily manipulated. Aaron nodded slowly. We get that a lot. He walked over to a locker and pulled out a worn thermal cloak. No insignia. No rank. Just something practical. Here, he said, draping it over her shoulders. Hangar gets cold at night. She froze again. Not in fear. In confusion. You gain nothing from this, she said. Sure I do, Aaron replied. I don't like seeing people uncomfortable in my space. Her throat bobbed. People, she repeated. Last I checked. That night, Veolyra slept for the first time without restraints. Curled on a padded cargo mat. Wrapped in borrowed warmth. Listening to the unfamiliar hum of human machinery. For a few precious hours, she forgot she was unwanted. Far above Kelt 9, in a chamber of living crystal and gold, the Aurelian Emperor observed through hidden quantum lenses. He watched Veolyra eat, watched her sit, watched her smile. His lip curled. Enjoy it while it lasts, he murmured. The human will tire of you. An advisor shifted uneasily. Majesty, what if he does not? The Emperor laughed. No human resists temptation. He will either break her or grow bored. His eyes narrowed. Either way, she will crawl back. Back in the hangar, Aaron studied a data pad he hadn't meant to open. Imperial biometrics, psychological evaluations, disciplinary annotations. They weren't just cruel. They were systematic. Aaron exhaled slowly. So that's how they broke you, he muttered. Lyra stirred in her sleep. Outside, Kelt 9's artificial dawn began to rise. And somewhere between scrap metal and starlight, a human engineer made a quiet decision, one that would put him directly in the Empire's crosshairs. The Empire believed her weakness was visible. What they never measured was what happened when someone finally stopped trying to change her. Morning on Kelt 9 wasn't sunlight. It was a gradual thinning of shadow. The refinery glowed dimming just enough to remind you time still moved forward. Aaron Vale hadn't slept. He stood at the edge of the hangar, staring at the data pad in his hands. Imperial seals glowed faintly across the screen. Medical assessments, nutritional restrictions, corrective training schedules. Every line said the same thing in different words. Reduce. Restrain. Correct. Behind him, Lyra shifted. She woke slowly, like someone afraid that consciousness itself might carry consequences. She sat up, clutching the thermal cloak tighter around her shoulders. I apologize, she said immediately. I did not intend to rest so long. Aaron didn't turn around. You slept 6 hours. That's not a crime here. In the court, she replied. Rest was considered indulgence. Figures. He finally faced her. You ever work on machines? He asked. Lyra blinked. No. My instruction focused on posture, optics, and ceremonial endurance. Cool. Today you learned something useful. That caught her off guard. He rolled a compact service drone toward the center of the hangar. Its casing was dented, one stabilizer arm hanging loose. Name's Patch, Aaron said. Refinery scrapped it for inefficiency. I think it just needs patience. Lyra hesitated. You want me to repair it? Help, he corrected. I'll show you. She knelt beside the drone, movements careful at first. Her hands were larger than most Imperial artisans, stronger. The tools fit her grip naturally once she stopped apologizing for their weight. Aaron noticed how quickly she learned, how her mind worked spatially, how she remembered sequences, how she asked precise, thoughtful questions. Not once did she complain. Not once did she call herself a burden. By midday, Patch hummed to life. Lyra gasped as the drone lifted, wobbling before stabilizing. I did that, she whispered. Yeah, Aaron said. You did. Something in her expression shifted. Pride small, cautious, but real. That's when the first visitor arrived. A group of off-world traders stopped at the hangar for emergency coolant. Humans. A few Keth. One Augmarian. They saw Lyra. The pause was instant. Eyes lingered. Calculations ran. Some curious. Some uncomfortable. One trader snorted. Didn't know humans started collecting Imperial leftovers. Lyra's spine stiffened. Aaron didn't even look up from the console. Didn't know traders started confusing curiosity with courage, he said calmly. The trader bristled. Hey, I was joking. No, Aaron replied. You were testing how much disrespect you could get away with. Silence. The Augmarian shifted, uneasy. We just need the coolant. Then take it and go, Aaron said. Price just doubled. They paid. They left. Lyra exhaled shakily. You didn't have to do that, she said. Sure I did, Aaron replied. This is my hangar. That night, Lyra spoke softly as they shared another meal. In the Empire, she said, defense was conditional. Only the valuable were protected. Aaron looked at her. Yeah, on the frontier, we protect what's ours. She studied him. And am I? He met her gaze, without hesitation. Yeah, he said. You are. Elsewhere, the Emperor received his first report. Footage, audio, behavioral analysis. Lyra repairing machinery. Lyra smiling. Lyra standing beside a human who did not flinch at her presence. The Emperor's fingers tightened around the armrest. She is adapting, an advisor said carefully. Then escalate, the Emperor replied. Humans fold under pressure. Orders were issued. Aurelian inspectors. Legal claims. A recall notice disguised as mercy. The message arrived at dawn. Imperial seal. Priority channel. Aaron read it once. Then again. Veilira watched his expression darken. What is it? She asked. They want you returned, he said. Immediately. Her shoulders sagged. Of course. They're calling it a rehabilitation review. Aaron continued. Translation. Punishment for not breaking fast enough. She nodded, resignation settling in. I will prepare. Aaron clenched his jaw. No, he said. She looked up sharply. No, she echoed. I said no. This is not your conflict, Veilira warned. Defying an emperor is a terrible idea, Aaron finished. I know. He looked around the hangar, the patch machines, the stubborn systems that refused to stay dead, then back at her. But I'm really good at terrible ideas. The Imperial fleet was already en route, and for the first time in her life, Princess Veilira realized someone was willing to fight for her. The Empire came to reclaim what it thought was broken. It didn't realize the human had already taught her how to stand. The Aurelian fleet didn't arrive quietly. Space above Kelt, 9 warped and bent as Imperial cruisers tore through subspace, their hulls gleaming like polished judgment. Civilian traffic scattered. Refinery platforms powered down non-essential systems. Everyone knew what that formation meant. Compliance or consequences. Inside the hangar, warning klaxons wailed. Patch zipped nervously in tight circles, its optics flashing amber. Veilira stood very still. They've come sooner than expected, she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands betrayed her, fingers pressing together with too much force. I should go to them willingly. It will be easier. Aaron sealed a crate and wiped his hands. Easier for who? For you, she replied. If I resist, they will punish you as well. Aaron leaned against the bench, studying her the same way he studied malfunctioning systems. Not to judge, but to understand. You know what humans are bad at? He asked. Veilira blinked. Avoiding punishment. He smirked, accepting unfair math. He tapped the hangar console. A local schematic of Kelt. 9 flickered into view. Scrapped tunnels, refinery bypasses, abandoned cargo rails. I don't plan to fight an empire, Aaron said. I plan to outlast it. She stared at the map. This is treason. Only if we lose. The first Imperial shuttle descended moments later, landing with theatrical precision just outside the hangar doors. Aurelian inspectors emerged, draped in authority and arrogance. Princess Veilira, one called out. By decree of the Emperor, you are ordered to return. Resistance will be recorded as further evidence of your inadequacy. Veilira stepped forward, then stopped. Aaron had gently placed a hand on her arm. You don't owe them obedience, he said quietly. They are my people, she replied, even when they hate me. Then let them hate someone who stands upright, he said, not someone kneeling. The inspector's patience thinned. Human, the lead officer barked. Remove yourself from Imperial business. Aaron stepped into view. This is my hangar, he said evenly, and my guest. A ripple of disbelief passed through the inspectors. A guest, one scoffed. She is a defect. Aaron smiled and pressed a switch. The hangar doors slammed shut. Gravity shifted. Emergency bulkheads sealed. Kelt 9's ancient systems Aaron had quietly repaired for years, came alive in perfect sequence. The inspectors staggered as the floor tilted, magnetic locks clamping their boots in place. What have you done? The officer demanded. Maintenance, Aaron replied. Long overdue. Veilira watched in stunned silence as Aaron worked the controls with calm precision. Not violence, not chaos. Control. The inspectors were detained. Non-lethal. Recorded. Logged. Imperial law violation after Imperial law violation. Trespass. Civilian endangerment. Unauthorized seizure. You can't hold us. One snarled. The Emperor. We'll see the footage. Aaron interrupted. And the audit trails. And the witnesses. He turned to Veilira. You want them to see you? She swallowed. Yes. He activated the holo projector. Veolyra stood tall as the transmission went live. "My father sent me here to be humiliated," she said clearly. "Instead, I was treated as a person." The inspectors struggled uselessly behind her. "I have repaired machines. I have learned skills. I have rested without chains." Her voice strengthened. "If that is inadequacy, then your empire is afraid of competence it cannot control." The transmission cut. Silence followed. Then alarms. Imperial vessels powered weapons. Aaron cursed under his breath. "Okay, that part was faster than I hoped." Veolyra turned to him. "You should let me go. Now, I will not let them burn this place." Aaron shook his head. Already planned for that. The hangar floor opened. A concealed freight rail, abandoned for decades, roared to life. "Welcome to Plan B," Aaron said. And C. And D. They ran. Through tunnels forgotten by Empire maps. Through service shafts built by humans, who assumed no one important would ever come here. Behind them, Imperial forces tore the hangar apart. But they were already gone. Hours later, deep beneath Kelt 9, they stopped. Veolyra leaned against the tunnel wall, breathless. "You defied an emperor," she said softly. Aaron shrugged. "He defied basic decency first." She studied him, really studied him. "You don't see me the way they do," she said. "No," he replied. "I see someone who was never the problem." Above them, the Empire recalculated. And for the first time, the Emperor felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Not anger. Uncertainty, because humiliation had failed, and defiance was contagious. The Empire tried force. Now it would try something far more dangerous, rewriting the truth. The tunnels beneath Kelt 9 weren't meant for comfort. They were narrow, unlit arteries of forgotten infrastructure, lined with cables older than most star systems' governments. Water dripped somewhere in the dark. The air tasted of metal and dust. Veolyra moved carefully, but without complaint. Aaron noticed that too. "Still holding up?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she replied. "I am surprisingly capable." He smiled faintly. "Funny how that works." They reached an old maintenance chamber and sealed the door behind them. Aaron powered up a portable comm array, its screen flickering to life. Imperial channels were already flooding the spectrum. Propaganda moved fast. Reports indicate the princess has been abducted. Human extremist manipulating a vulnerable royal. Concerns over mental instability. Veolyra listened, her expression growing distant. "They are making me small again," she whispered. Aaron shut the feed off. "They can say whatever they want," he said. "Doesn't make it true." "It does," she replied softly. "If enough people believe it." That was the part Aaron hadn't accounted for. Empires didn't just rule with ships and soldiers. They ruled with stories. Hours passed as Aaron rerouted power and checked scanners. The Imperial fleet maintained orbit, tightening its net. Leaving the moon openly was impossible. Veolyra sat cross-legged on the floor, hands resting on her knees. "I was trained for this," she said suddenly. "For hiding." Aaron asked. "For endurance," she corrected. "When the Empire decides someone must be erased, they do not rush. They exhaust you, isolate you, convince the universe you were never worthy of being seen." She looked up at him. "They will do this to you now." Aaron exhaled slowly. "Then we change the narrative." She tilted her head. "How does one challenge an empire's voice?" "With a better signal." He activated the comm array again, this time linking to civilian relays, independent networks, fringe forums where stories spread faster than censorship. "People trust what feels real," Aaron said. "And you're real." Veolyra hesitated. "If I speak again, there is no return." "Yeah," he said gently. "That's usually how it starts." She closed her eyes, then nodded. The broadcast went live. Not polished, not imperial, just honest. "My name is Veolyra," she said. "I was called weak because my body did not conform to an image designed for control." Her voice wavered, then steadied. "I was sent to be humiliated. Instead, I was taught to repair what others discarded, to rest without permission, to exist without apology." Images followed. Patch lifting, her hands working tools, her standing beside Aaron, not protected, but equal. I am not abducted, she continued. I chose to stay where I was treated with dignity. The feed cut before the Empire could jam it. Silence. Then alerts. Civilian chatter spiked. Human frontier worlds. Mixed species stations. People who had felt that same pressure. Be smaller, quieter, less visible. Messages poured in. Support. Anger. Recognition. Aaron stared at the data stream. Well, that escalated. Veilira looked overwhelmed. They're listening. Yeah, he said. That's the scary part. The Emperor's reaction was immediate. The princess has been compromised, he declared to the court. Her words are not her own. A noble dared to ask. Then why do they resonate? The Emperor's gaze froze him in place. Prepare the retrieval force, he ordered, and draft the decree. What decree, Majesty? Disinheritance. The word rippled through the chamber. She will no longer be Aurelian, the Emperor said coldly. She will be nothing. The message reached Veilira hours later. Stripped of title, stripped of inheritance, declared dead to the throne. She stared at the screen, hands shaking. I expected punishment, she whispered, but not erasure. Aaron crouched beside her. Hey. She looked at him, eyes wet. Without the Empire, I have no identity. He shook his head. You had an identity before they named you. She laughed weakly. And what is that? Aaron didn't answer right away. He thought of the way she learned, the way she endured, the way she spoke truth, knowing it would cost her everything. A builder, he said finally. A survivor. Someone who makes things better just by being there. Imperial scanners flared on his console. They found us, he added. Veilira stood. Then, for the first time, she did something unexpected. She straightened her shoulders, not in defiance of the Empire, but in defiance of the idea that she needed it. Then we keep moving, she said. Together. Outside, the Empire closed in, but something else was spreading faster than fear. Hope. And empires had never known how to stop that. When an empire loses control of the story, it reaches for annihilation. What it didn't expect was a human who knew how to turn pressure into power. Imperial scanners swept the tunnels like hunting beasts. Aaron watched the signals crawl closer across his display. Tight, methodical, inescapable. They're not playing retrieval anymore, he said grimly. This is containment. Veilira nodded. If they cannot silence my voice, they will erase the stage. A low tremor rolled through the chamber. Somewhere above, heavy ordnance locked into position. Orbital precision strikes. Clean. Final. Aaron exhaled. Okay. New terrible idea. Veilira almost smiled. He rerouted power again, fingers flying. Kilt. 9 has one advantage the Empire hates, human negligence. These refineries were built cheap, modified cheaper, and forgotten. He pulled up a hidden network diagram. Emergency broadcast nodes. Veilira realized. Old enough they don't show on Imperial maps, Aaron said, but still connected. What are you thinking? I'm thinking if they want a stage wiped clean, he grinned tightly. We make it too loud to ignore. The ground shook again. Veilira placed a steadying hand on the console. If we do this, there will be casualties. Not if I time it right, Aaron said. Humans are good at evacuation when properly motivated. He patched into refinery control and triggered automated safety alerts across civilian channels. Gas leaks. Structural instability. False, but convincing. Workers fled. Traffic spiked. The Empire hesitated. Seconds mattered. Veilira activated her personal communicator. I can amplify your signal. Can you override Imperial suppression? Aaron asked. She met his eyes. They trained me to speak only when permitted. They forgot to teach me how to be quiet. The broadcast ignited. Not just her voice this time. Others joined. Dock workers, traders, engineers, people who had seen the footage, heard the lies, recognized the pattern. Stories layered atop stories. Abuse, erasure, control disguised as culture. The Emperor's image flickered across public feeds, angry, unprepared, shouting into a universe that was no longer listening. This is sedition, he roared. You endanger yourselves by listening to her. Veolyra stepped into frame. No, she said calmly. You endanger yourselves by believing him. Imperial suppression field surged. Aaron slammed a final command. The emergency nodes overloaded, dumping every signal, every story, every suppressed record into open space. A data storm. Unstoppable. The Empire fired. A kinetic strike slammed into Kelt 9's upper refinery ring, ripping metal and fire into the void. Aaron swore. That wasn't the plan. Veolyra steadied herself as alarm screamed. They chose fear, she said quietly. Now they will reap it. The tunnels shook violently. Sections collapsed behind them as they ran. Patch zipped ahead, projecting safe routes. Left, Aaron shouted. They burst into an auxiliary launch bay. Ancient, dusty, barely functional. A single cargo skiff sat dormant. Aaron slammed ignition. Nothing. Veolyra placed her hand beside his. Again, she said. The engine coughed, then roared. Imperial fighters streaked past the bay opening as the skiff lurched free, scraping metal, spinning into open space. Behind them, Kelt 9 burned, but civilians were already gone. The Empire's strike achieved nothing, except proof. Across the galaxy, the data storm hit. Records long buried surfaced. Patterns emerged. The Emperor's treatment of failures. Disappearances reframed as discipline. A lineage built on fear. Worlds murmured. Allies hesitated. Rivals smiled. In the skiff's cockpit, Veolyra watched stars streak by. I am no longer afraid, she said softly. Is that strange? Aaron shook his head. Nah, that's what happens when fear stops working. She turned to him. What happens next? He glanced at the NAV display. Dozens of civilian signals pinging, offering shelter, support, allegiance. We don't run anymore, he said. We build something they can't erase. The Emperor stood alone in his chamber, staring at fractured reports. They listened to her, he whispered. An advisor spoke carefully. Majesty, the narrative has shifted. The Emperor's jaw tightened. Then I will end it personally. A new order was issued, not to retrieve, not to silence, to destroy the symbol. Veolyra's image filled Imperial screens. Target priority, absolute. In the skiff, Veolyra felt the shift before Aaron said anything. They've marked you, he said quietly. She nodded. Then they have finally seen me. She straightened in her seat, not as a princess, but as something far more dangerous. A truth the Empire could no longer control. And somewhere ahead, a confrontation waited that would decide more than her fate. It would decide what the galaxy believed about power itself. The Empire didn't hunt her to bring her home. It hunted her to make an example, one the galaxy would never forget. They hid among the debris fields of Orin's wake, a graveyard of shattered hulls and dead ambitions drifting between trade routes. Radiation storms scrambled long-range sensors. Perfect cover. Temporary. Aaron cut the engines and let inertia carry them. Silence settled, thick, listening. They'll triangulate eventually, he said. They always do. Veolyra nodded, eyes fixed on the stars. My father never stops once he chooses an ending. Patch hovered, projecting alerts. Multiple pings. Not Imperial, civilian. Distress calls. Look at this. Aaron muttered. Convoys rerouting. Stations going dark. They're locking down sectors. Veolyra closed her eyes. He's squeezing the innocent to flush us out. A familiar strategy. Punish the many to break the few. Aaron's jaw tightened. Then we don't hide. She turned sharply. You said we build. Yeah, he replied, by standing where they can't pretend not to see us. He pulled up a star map and highlighted a location. Helios Spire, a neutral megastructure. Mixed species. Billions watching. Live arbitration feeds, piped to half the galaxy. If we show up there, Aaron continued, the Empire has two options. Back down in public, or show everyone who they really are. Veolyra's pulse quickened. He will choose violence. Probably, Aaron said, but he won't be able to edit it. They jumped. Helios Spire rose like a crown of light, layer upon layer of habitat rings, trade docks, and judicial halls rotating in perfect balance. As their skiff docked, eyes turned. Whispers spread. That's her. The princess. The one who spoke. Security teams approached, alert, cautious. Veilira stepped forward before Aaron could speak. I am Veilira, she said clearly. I request sanctuary under neutral law. Cameras locked on. A pause, then a nod. Granted, the marshal replied. Pending arbitration. Cheers erupted from a nearby concourse. Not loud, not universal, but real. Aaron exhaled. Okay, we're officially doing this. The hearing chamber filled quickly. Representatives from dozens of systems. Observers from hundreds more. The feed went live. Veilira stood alone at the center. No regalia, no title, just presence. I was born into power, she began, and taught that power was conditional. That worth could be measured by appearance, obedience, and silence. Murmurs rippled. My father calls this culture. I call it fear. The doors boomed open. Imperial guards marched in formation. The Emperor himself followed, tall, immaculate, furious. You dare stand here and poison the galaxy? He thundered. Veilira didn't flinch. I dare tell the truth, she said. Something you taught me to fear. He sneered. You were always too indulgent, too visible, a distraction. Aaron watched from the gallery, fists clenched. Veilira's voice steadied. You sent me to be humiliated. Instead, I learned that dignity is not granted by thrones. She gestured, and the chamber screens ignited. Footage, records, data from the storm, patterns no one could deny anymore. The Emperor's composure cracked. This is treason, he spat. By imperial law. Your law, Veilira interrupted. Written to protect you. Silence. The galaxy watched. Imperial warships decloaked outside Heliospire. Weapons charged. Gasps filled the chamber. Aaron's heart hammered. He's actually going to do it. The Emperor smiled thinly. You see, this ends now. Veilira inhaled and made her choice. I renounce you, she said. Not as Emperor, as father. The words landed like a seismic strike. And I accept whatever follows, she continued, voice unwavering. Because if you destroy this place to erase me, the galaxy will remember exactly why. For a heartbeat, time froze. Then, something unexpected. Imperial comm channels erupted. Defections. Hesitation. Commanders refusing orders. A cruiser powered down its weapons. Then another. The Emperor's smile vanished. You think this changes anything? He hissed. Veilira met his gaze. It already has. Security surged. The Emperor was escorted out amid shouting and chaos. The chamber erupted, not in celebration, but in realization. The Empire wasn't invincible. Aaron finally breathed. Later, in a quiet corridor overlooking the stars, Veilira leaned against the railing. I severed the last chain, she said softly. Aaron stood beside her. You also lit a fuse. She smiled, a real one. Good. Outside, the Imperial fleet withdrew, not defeated, but wounded, and far across the galaxy. People made a dangerous connection. If she could stand up to an emperor, maybe they could too. But empires didn't fall in a day. And the Emperor wasn't finished. He was already planning something far worse than force. Empires fall when fear stops working. Legends are born when someone refuses to become small again. The Emperor didn't retreat to recover. He retreated to redefine victory. Across Imperial space, broadcasts shifted tone overnight. No more rage. No more threats. Instead, solemnity. Citizens of the Aurelian Empire. The Emperor's voice echoed, calm and controlled. Recent events have revealed a painful truth. My daughter was unprepared for the burdens of leadership. I accept responsibility. Veilira watched the feed in silence from Heliospire's observation deck. He's apologizing, Aaron muttered. That's new. It's not an apology, Veilira said quietly. It's a trap. The Emperor continued. To heal this wound, I will abdicate in favor of reform. A transition council will restore balance. Cheers erupted on some channels. Relief flooded others. Hope manufactured, polished, dangerous. Aaron frowned. People want this to be over. Yes, Veolyra said, and he is counting on that. Within hours, reports followed. Imperial forces withdrawing. Political prisoners released. Reforms announced. But patch-flagged anomalies, quiet ones. Ship movements that didn't match public orders. Resource stockpiles vanishing. A single system erased from public maps. Aaron's blood ran cold. He's consolidating. Veolyra closed her eyes. He always preferred endings that looked like mercy. The truth surfaced 3 days later. The Emperor had retreated to Aurelian Prime, activating an ancient failsafe, one designed not to rule the Empire, but to burn it clean. If he couldn't control the future, he would erase the present. A dead man protocol. Billions of lives held hostage to obedience. The galaxy froze. Veolyra stood before the council chamber. No crown, no throne. Yet every eye followed her. This is my responsibility, she said. He built this weapon in my name. Aaron stepped forward instantly. Then it's ours to dismantle. The plan was simple. Impossible. They would broadcast again, but this time not to expose. To replace. The Empire's control systems were keyed to Imperial genetic authority. To her. They infiltrated Aurelian Prime under the cover of chaos. Not as conquerors. Not as rebels. As engineers. As builders. Inside the core chamber, older than the Empire itself, Veolyra faced the control dais. It pulsed with dormant power. Her father waited. You could have ruled, the Emperor said quietly. Instead, you chose to be seen. She met his gaze. You taught me fear, she replied. Humans taught me choice. You think they love you, he scoffed. They will grow bored. Maybe, Veolyra said, but I won't disappear to keep them comfortable. She placed her hand on the dais. The system awakened, but instead of annihilation, it listened. Veolyra rewrote the protocol, not to obey blood, but consensus. Not dominance, but consent. Power redistributed. Control dissolved. The Empire's ultimate weapon became its final lesson. The Emperor screamed as authority drained from his grasp. Not violently, not dramatically. Quietly, like sand slipping through open fingers. Hours later, the galaxy watched as the Aurelian failsafe deactivated permanently. No explosion. No purge. Just an ending. Weeks passed. The Empire fractured, peacefully, unevenly, humanly. Veolyra declined every offered throne. Instead, she stood beside Aaron on a half-rebuilt station overlooking open space. What are we building now? He asked. She smiled, hands resting on a new design, modular habitats, inclusive by design. A place where no one has to earn the right to exist, she said. He nodded. Good bones. She glanced at him. You never once tried to change me. Aaron shrugged. Didn't see the point. You were already enough. The galaxy didn't remember her as the Emperor's daughter. They remembered her as the one who proved that strength isn't reduction. It's presence. And somewhere out there, an empire learned the hardest lesson of all. You can control people with fear. But the moment someone teaches them dignity, you lose them forever. If this story moved you, even a little, do me a favor. Hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to HFY Soundscape for more powerful HFY sci-fi tales that remind us what humanity really means.